They looked miserable in those cages, like tiny prisoners. I did them a favor, Amanda declared, flipping her blonde hair over her shoulder with a self-satisfied smirk. I stood in my now empty rabbitry, staring at the pristine cages where my prized Netherland Dwarf breeding pairs had lived just hours ago. My name is Olivia Parker. I'm a 32-year-old veterinary technician, and for the past decade, I've built one of the most prestigious rabbit breeding programs in the country. While others climbed corporate ladders, I dedicated myself to preserving rare genetic lines, ensuring healthier breeds, and contributing to global conservation efforts. Amanda, I said, forcing my voice to remain steady despite the rage boiling inside me. Those rabbits were worth more than your car. She laughed, the sound grating against my nerves. They're just rabbits. They deserve to be free, running around in the forest, having little wild babies. I didn't waste my breath explaining that domestic rabbits wouldn't last a day in the wild. Instead, I pulled out my phone and started typing. Amanda's smirk faltered. "What are you doing?" "Texting the police," I replied calmly, "and the American Rabbit Breeders Association. Those rabbits weren't just pets, Amanda. They were part of an international DNA registration program." The color drained from her face. "What?" Each rabbit had a microchip and a registered DNA profile. "That sad little brown one you thought needed freedom. She's one of only 50 purebred silver martins left in the world." I turned my screen toward her, displaying the official registration records. Amanda's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "But I was helping them." "The police will be here soon," I continued, still typing. "They take theft of registered breeding stock very seriously, especially when those animals are part of an endangered species preservation program." She grabbed my arm, desperation replacing her earlier smugness. "You can't call the police. I'm family." I calmly removed her hand. Family doesn't destroy a decade of breeding work because they think they know better than actual experts. The truth was, I had been prepared for this. Ever since Amanda and my brother moved in next door 3 months ago, she had made her disdain for my cruel breeding program abundantly clear. She ignored every explanation about genetic preservation, preferring to see me as some kind of villainous jailer. But what she didn't know, each of my rabbits wasn't just microchipped. They also had tiny GPS trackers. I already knew exactly where she had dumped them in the nearby state forest. My rescue team was enraged. "It's not theft," she shrieked, her voice rising in pitch. I was being kind. "They're better off in nature." I pulled up another document. "See this? It's the estimated market value of my breeding stock. Those 24 rabbits you freed are worth approximately $380,000. Amanda swayed on her feet. "That's impossible. They're just rabbits." "They're not just anything," I snapped, my patience finally cracking. "They're the product of decades of selective breeding. Some of those bloodlines go back over a century. Their DNA is critical for maintaining healthy domestic rabbit populations worldwide." Headlights swept across the driveway, followed by the crunch of tires. The local police and my rescue team had arrived. Amanda started to cry, big, theatrical tears that had always been her go-to tactic. "Please," she whimpered. "Mark is going to kill me." My brother had always enabled her self-righteous behavior, but this time, she had crossed a line even he couldn't ignore. The front door opened and multiple sets of footsteps echoed through the house. "Miss Parker," a familiar voice called. "In here," I answered. Officer Martinez stepped into the rabbitry, accompanied by my rescue team coordinator. I nodded toward the corner security camera. "You'll want to check the footage. It captured everything." Amanda's fake tears stopped abruptly. "Security footage?" I gave her a tight smile. "I run an internationally registered breeding program, Amanda. Of course I have security cameras." As the officers photographed the empty cages and took her statement, I turned to my rescue team. "The GPS trackers show they're all within a 2-mile radius. If we move fast, we can find them before nightfall." Amanda stood frozen, watching as her perfect plan unraveled in real time. She had expected praise for her misguided rescue. Instead, she was about to face the consequences for what she had really done: sabotage, theft, and the potential deaths of animals she had claimed to care about. For once, there was no charming her way out of this. The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity. My rescue team spread through the forest, tracking each rabbit's GPS signal while I tried to process the sheer scale of Amanda's recklessness. One by one, the signals moved, at least they were still alive. That one, Sarah called out, carefully lifting a trembling silver martin from beneath a tangle of brush. Poor thing's terrified, but looks unharmed. Relief flitted through me, but it was laced with fury. These weren't wild animals. They had never known life outside human care. Each rabbit recovered was a testament to how close Amanda had come to disaster. Meanwhile, Officer Martinez was wrapping up Amanda's statement. Her voice climbed in pitch as she tried to justify herself. They were in cages. It's not natural. I was doing what any compassionate person would do. Ma'am, Officer Martinez replied evenly. These are registered breeding animals worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Their genetic lines are protected under international conservation agreements. As the last rabbit was found and secured, my brother Mark arrived. His face was red, not with the usual frustration directed at me, but with something unfamiliar. Pure, unfiltered anger. Amanda, what the hell were you thinking? His voice was tight, controlled. Do you have any idea what you've done? Amanda lifted her chin, but the bravado was slipping. I was helping. They were suffering. I stepped forward, clutching the latest veterinary report. Actually, they receive better medical care than most people. Weekly checkups, specialized diets, climate-controlled housing. They're part of a preservation program for endangered domestic breeds. Mark dragged his hands through his hair, a child could tell for when he was overwhelmed. How much trouble is she in? Officer Martinez exhaled. Given the value of the animals and their protected status, this could qualify as grand theft. However, he glanced at me. If Ms. Parker chooses not to press charges and all animals are recovered safely. I turned to Amanda. Her mascara streaked down her face, her earlier smugness drowned in real fear. I want a restraining order, I said firmly. She is never to come near my property or my rabbits again. That's fair, Mark said before Amanda could protest. We'll move. Today. Amanda's head jerked up. Move? But we just got settled. And then you committed a felony against my sister, Mark snapped. We're lucky she's not pressing charges. The rescue team finished their initial health checks. Miraculously, all 24 rabbits had been found with no immediate injuries, though their stress levels concerned me. They'll need careful monitoring, I told Mark. Stress alone can kill rabbits, if any of them suffer complications. Send me the vet bills, he interrupted. Every single one. Amanda made a noise of protest but fell silent at Mark's glare. For the first time in years, he wasn't making excuses for her. Officer Martinez handed me a copy of the incident report. You'll want to notify the Breeding Association. They may recommend additional security measures. I nodded, already dreading the phone calls. Some of these bloodlines were irreplaceable, the product of generations of careful breeding. I didn't know, Amanda said quietly, watching me check over each rabbit. I thought they were just pets. I didn't look up. That's the problem. You didn't bother to ask. You just decided you knew better. Mark placed a hand on my shoulder. We'll be out by tonight. I'm so sorry, Liv. As they left, I heard Amanda start another round of protests, but Mark's voice was firm. This time, he wasn't bending to her self-righteousness. For the next several hours, I focused on my rabbits, documenting their conditions for the Breeding Association and my insurance. The GPS trackers had saved them this time, but I needed stronger security. Amanda had proven that much. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark. Movers will be here in an hour. Amanda's staying with her sister until we find a new place. I really am sorry. I didn't reply. Years of Amanda's helping had chipped away at my patience and my relationship with my brother. This wasn't the first time she had interfered in my life, but it would be the last. I glanced at my rabbits, each one special, each one carrying a history that extended far beyond Amanda's limited understanding. She had nearly destroyed something precious because she refused to accept that someone else might know more than she did. As night fell, I finally exhaled. The rabbits were safe. Amanda was leaving, and for the first time in months, I felt like my home was mine again. In the weeks that followed, my rabbitry became a fortress. New security cameras, reinforced blocks, and a state-of-the-art alarm system ensured that no one, not Amanda, not anyone, could repeat her so-called rescue attempt. The Breeding Association responded swiftly, using my ordeal as a case study to improve security protocols for all registered breeders. My GPS tracking system became the gold standard, with other breeders reaching out for advice on protecting their own irreplaceable genetic lines. Mark stayed true to his word, paying every vet bill without complaint. The rabbits gradually recovered, though 2 of my oldest has required extra care for weeks. Dr. Patterson handed me a report during one follow-up visit. The DNA test results are in, no genetic damage from the stress. But I'd recommend delaying breeding for at least 3 months. The setback frustrated me, but health came first. Always. Then came the letter. I want to appeal the restraining order, Amanda's lawyer wrote. My client was acting out of compassion, and the severe restrictions are affecting her family relationships. I forwarded it to my own lawyer with a single word. No. Mark called that evening, his voice heavy with exhaustion. She's not handling this well, Liv. She thinks everyone's overreacting. She nearly destroyed a decade of work because she refused to listen to experts, I replied, my grip tightening on the phone. The restraining order stays. He sighed but didn't argue. Maybe for the first time he was seeing Amanda for who she really was. Their marriage strained under the weight of her choices, and I could tell he wasn't sure how much longer he could hold it together. Meanwhile, the breeding community rallied around me. Stories poured in from other breeders, tales of well-meaning interference that had caused irreversible damage. My upgraded security system became a model for protecting valuable breeding stock. 6 months after the incident, an unexpected email arrived from the International Rare Breed Conservation Society. They wanted to feature my rabbitry in their annual report. Your experience highlighted a crucial issue, the director wrote. Many amateur activists don't understand the scientific importance of controlled breeding programs. As I wrapped up a photo shoot for their article, Mark arrived, alone. He looked older, worn down. Amanda and I are divorcing, he said, watching as I checked a new litter of silver martins. Her sister's been encouraging her activism. She still thinks she did nothing wrong. I searched for the right words. Part of me felt guilty for being the cavalist, but another part knew this had been inevitable. The rabbits are doing well, I said instead. The breeding program's back on track. He exhaled a quiet laugh. Good. You know, I never really understood what you did here until all this happened. These little guys, they're important, aren't they? They're part of something bigger than us, I said, showing him the detailed genetic records. Each one carries traits that could help preserve their breed. It's not just about having pets, it's about protecting their future. Almost on cue, a tiny kit poked its head out of the nesting box. Perfect silver martin coloring. Exactly what the breeding program needed. The incident had changed more than just security protocols. It had shifted relationships, priorities, and perspectives. Mark finally saw the value of my work, even if his soon-to-be ex-wife never would. My rabbitry became a beacon for other breeders, proof that passion for animals needed to be balanced with knowledge and respect for expertise. The GPS trackers that saved my rabbits became standard worldwide. Amanda eventually moved across the country with her sister, still convinced she had been right. But in trying to destroy my life's work, she had only made it stronger. Sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation, it's success. My rabbits thrived. The program grew. And my brother, he finally found his voice, standing up to the self-righteousness that had nearly cost me everything. Looking at my rabbitry now, I realize Amanda's rescue had an unexpected silver lining. It strengthened everything I had built. Some people will never understand that true compassion requires knowledge. But for those of us who do, we'll keep working, keep breeding, and keep preserving these genetic lines for generations to come.